This is a live Channels television event.
For his speech. If you clap louder, he might just donate money. So put your hands together for him, please.
Excellency, the former head of state, General Muhammadu Buhari, Excellency, the former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku, Your Excellencies, the governors of states here present, Your Excellencies, former governors of state, the celebrant and his dear wife, distinguished members of the High Table, distinguished senators and honorable representatives, members of the House of Representatives, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you to this public lecture being organized to mark the 50th anniversary of His Excellency Chief Timipre Sylva, former governor of Elsa State from 2007 to 2011. I ask you to join me in wishing him a happy birthday. The age of 50 is remarkable. It marks the first half of a century, and some say it marks the commencement of old age too. The topic of this lecture is the challenge of democratic governance. The fact that Nigeria is a democratic country is not in dispute, for the 1999 Constitution has so provided. Democracy is what has been in practice at all levels of government in Nigeria for the past 15 years. Governance is defined to mean government participatory leadership, which consists of members of a ruling group that are encouraged to share ideas and opinions, even though the leader of the group retains the final say over decisions. Power can be elusive and intoxicating. Joseph Kizabo, in his book, Protective Gesture, Senegal, describe power as follows. Power is like an egg. If you hold it too tightly, it will break. If you do not hold it firmly enough, it will slip out of your hands and again break. Power needs to be exercised. Power needs to be exercised with neither too much severity nor too much laxity. It is a profound image that compares power to something as precious as an egg, which carries the germ of life. For it is true Those who are in power hold the lives of people in their grasp, unquote. Our guest speaker is no less a person than the acting governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN, who has occupied that office creditably for the better part of 8 years. He is therefore in an excellent position and well qualified to speak on the topic of the lecture. Let me again seize this opportunity to congratulate the celebrant, Chief Timipre Sylva, for attaining the significant age of 50, and to wish him many happy returns of the day. I welcome you all to the lecture and hope you have an interesting day. Thank you for the attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, could you please give our chairman another round of applause? All right, Your Excellencies, very distinguished Nigerians here present. At this point, we'd like to move to, if you have your program of event with you, we are on item number 7, which happened to be a little profile about a friend. And this is going to be done by the Chairman, Editorial Board, The Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Sam Omasheye. Please give him a round of applause as he comes to tell us about the celebrant. Could you please clap louder? Just, you'll be very supportive. Thank you.
I want to stand on an existing protocol. So it's Timipre Sylva, a portrait. How shall I write about Timipre Sylva? Is it as a chief, a governor, a poet, a family man, a husband, a father, a community man, a pious man, a jolly good fellow, an intellectual gladiator, his glorious contradictions, his impulsive goodness, or his impulsive rage, as an organization man, as a subversive, the one who deifies and defies simultaneously. It is a challenge I don't think I can do very well. Take, for instance, my first encounter with him. I had written an article, one of those things I write that annoys quite a few people in high places. And it certainly was one of those at the receiving end of my barb. One day he visited the office of the Nation and met with the editors. I was not there at the beginning. Once I alighted into the boardroom, my colleagues pointed at me and said, "Ah, that's the guy you were looking for." And with an air of affectionate affray, he looked at me, stood, and gave the kind of handshake that said, "By the time I'm through with this meeting, we shall know who was right or wrong." He came with pictures and other evidence of his achievements as governor, and sucked in all the questions that a gathering of irreverent journalists could poke at any executive prey. At the end of the session, it left a distinct impression, unlike many in his shoes. You can attack him and he will be angry, but he will not bear malice. That is Timipre, the friend. The one who is hearty, fearless in comment, sensitive to criticism, but generous nonetheless in putting it in perspective. But the greatest asset about him is a simplicity, something very close to naivety. He's the sort of person who needs those who love him more than those who want to take advantage of him. I saw that early in complaints he made about those whom he gave jobs as governor, but did not rise up to expectation. For instance, there was the story of the fellow who was asked to do a contract, and he did a tiny bit of it and ran away with the rest of the money, amounting to more than 50% of the job. He wanted to get the person arrested, but the same stakeholders in the state who defended the guy and would not let him punish the person according to the full weight of the law were to turn against him when he fought the greatest battle of his life, when a president turned a democracy or a democratic process into a coup in the name of installing his own man as governor. Sylva turned out as a character in Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, who was, quote, more beloved than beloved, unquote. But this simplicity is full of masculine gentleness and air that all should live well. This was shown as a father when he decided that his children should know that having a father as governor should not shield them from the raw and sweet nature of the common folk. He organized often full days and weekends of visits with children of villages in Bayelsa State. Or as a husband, he would at every instance show his almost complete dependence on his wife, the beautiful Alayingi. So much so that on a number of times, when he is out of town, he will first take the phone and say, sweetheart, and make sure that all was well. In more than one of those occasions, he said, quote, I have to do this because if she's not okay, then I'm not okay. Was it not his simplicity that made him wonder why a certain writer turned down his request to spend a few hours with his daughter? That a writer had refused simply because that was the daughter of a governor upset him. A governor who allowed his children to eat and play with common folks in the village could not understand why his gubernatorial majesty would become a source of negative play and victimization. Or was it once when I and a fellow reporter visited his village and he would be immersed in the crowd of Bayelsans and was lost in the crowd? His inimitable height turned out to be his salvation for the scrambling security men whose nightmare grew as the crowd grew. He entered his compound and heard that his uncle was sick. He walked into his room, a dark, small place, and lingered there for what seemed like an eternity. He emerged with a scowl and a pain that shadowed his face until I left him that day. That man, an octogenarian, was recently kidnapped. But that simplicity came in sharp focus when President Goodluck Jonathan used all the forces of the military to organize a PDP primary. He joined the social media, that's Timipre Sylva, joined the social media in spreading a sardonic message. I cannot remember the message exactly, but it did not sound like it was coming from a governor. It might have been written by Isamo Mashaye. It was quite full of good humor about what seemed a matter of desperation by his distractors. Or was it when one afternoon a reporter called me and wondered whether it was true that Governor Sylva attended a primary school in Ajegunle in Lagos State? I was taken aback, and when I called to confirm, he was gleeful. So if you attended school proudly in Ajegunle, ensconced your Ivy League children with village folks, broke your fast with the Muslim community as a religious bond, laughed at yourself when the powers that be fainted in order to oust you from office, then you can have a sense of what this man really is. When we got into his village, he remarked, quote, This is where my mother buried my umbilical cord. Simultaneously, you saw both the poet and the simple man. Those lines inspired the following poem. I'll try to read it quickly. My umbilical cord. This lush bough tosses me back to my leap of dawn, when I first leaped over the physiognomy of things, my earth, my mother's back, the ruins of boyish pranks, the rude rhythms of rural roads, the plows of men, the harvests of women, the rural ambience, the ritual ambience of innocence. I recall the rhapsody of this place, trees with barks backing barks, bark infinite rows, weaving bowers of dark,